Welcome to the John DeVito Show. And I'm going to start it with this comment, plain and simple. Let's go, Brandon. We all know what that means. F. Joe Biden. Biden is the biggest disgrace as president in the history of this country. Jimmy Carter was once known as one of the worst presidents in the history of the country. When you look at Biden, Jimmy Carter looks like Washington, Lincoln, Adams, Jefferson, and all the great leaders in this country all rolled into one compared to this fool that we currently have in the Oval Office. I mean, we've gone through, excuse me, the list of failures that Biden has experienced during his first 3 years in office. And I'm sorry, but many of us still believe that he stole the presidency back in 2020. When you look at the polls, when you look at the vote counts at 1 o'clock in the morning, where Trump was winning in all the major battleground states, and then they stopped counting, and then all of a sudden, miraculously in the morning, Joe Biden had the lead in all these states. It is just absolute garbage, absolute fallacy. It did not happen. So we're not even going to talk about the fact that Biden most likely stole the election in 2020. His team of fascists hijacked the American election and stole it from the American people. Now, if you look down the list of Biden's failures, and we're going to run down these very quickly, excuse me, because these aren't something that I want to talk about today. I'm going to focus on something else. And I apologize for my cold. I've got a terrible head cold and no cough button with my headphones, so I apologize for my unprofessional coughing and everything else during this podcast. But we went through a list a couple weeks ago, with Biden, all of his failures. He's declared war on parents in this country, basically saying the government can educate children better than parents can. Let's talk about rising inflation, the cost of groceries, the cost of gas, the cost of homes, the cost of rent, the cost of clothing, and any other thing that you need to survive in this world right now has made it almost untenable for any middle-class family or lower-income family in this country to survive because prices are through the roof because of his failed Build Back Better or whatever the hell it was called that he instituted on our country. So inflation has made it almost impossible for Americans to survive right now in this country. Crime surge. Crime is running rampant. People are stealing. In California, large department store chains, Targets, stores like that are literally closing their doors because the crime is so bad they cannot keep their stores open. Mental health has not been addressed in this country. So we've got mentally ill people running around the streets and getting access to weapons, and they are committing violent crimes. We've got all of the illegals that have come over the border. We don't know who any of these people are. 98% of them could be good people, but the other 2% could be drug dealers, criminals, terrorists. Who knows who's coming into this country and stealing, shooting, killing, murdering, assaulting people. The crime surge is something like we've never seen. We are living now in a lawless society because of Joe Biden. It's just incredible to think about. Let's go back to COVID-19. What we saw during COVID-19 is something that hopefully nobody will ever forget. The government instituted authoritarian COVID-19 mandates. It was fascism. It was communism. It was the government telling us, you don't leave your house. You don't go to church. You don't socialize. You stay home with your mask on and get the damn shot if we tell you to. And it was something that in my 55 years I've never seen. The government overstepped, and this all happened under Dementia Joe's reign. His reign of terror, basically, is what we've experienced over the last 3 years. Just a nightmare. How about the return to energy dependence? We were independent or becoming independent under Trump. We were drilling for our own oil. We were not reliant on the Middle East to supply us. Under Biden, right away, he killed the Keystone Pipeline. He shut down drilling in the United States, and now we're buying it from the Middle East. And does that make the planet any cleaner? Does that solve climate change? That other fallacy that the Democrats keep shoving down our throats? No. But what it does is it takes away our independence for energy and returns us to dependence on terrorists and our enemies in this world. Just absolute lunacy. Lunacy. How about Afghanistan? Trump was pulling back operations in Afghanistan. And let's not forget that under Trump, there were no new wars. He was working on peace in the Middle East. He had met with the lunatic in North Korea, and he stopped firing missiles at us. People were afraid of Trump, and they respected Trump. No one respects this clown that we have in office right now. He botched Afghanistan. There were supporters that we had in that country that he turned his back on. Again, we've talked about the airplane flying off. Everyone saw it on the news with people dropping down from the wheels trying to get onto this airplane because if they knew if they were staying in Afghanistan, the Taliban was going to kill them. So we left billions of dollars of equipment in Afghanistan, tanks, weapons, advanced weapons that are now in the hands of terrorists. So again, Dementia Joe botched up that whole situation, and it was a disaster. The border crisis. No one has wanted to address this over the last 3 years. You know, Camel Toe Kamala, she is the border czar. She never went down to the border. She hasn't been once. Biden didn't even come close to visiting the border. We have done absolutely nothing to prevent the greatest invasion of our country in its history. We have people pouring into the border, thousands of people daily, where even the mayor of New York City now has come out and said, no more. Boston, same thing. We can't handle anymore. We have these people coming into our country. And again, I'm sorry that they live in countries where the situation maybe isn't as good as it is here in the United States in some ways, or maybe in the way that it was in some ways. But the bottom line is you cannot have people free-flowing into this country without checks and balances, without doing background checks, without knowing who these people actually are. This is an invasion, and, excuse me, any government intent on inflicting damage to the United States of America. Do you not think that they can see this? Do you not think that maybe right now, if there are Hamas members that want to come into the United States and cause havoc, maybe the next September 11th, they won't come in through the southern border? We don't know who these people are. We're letting them into our country. We are endangering the security of our country. And this is all happening under this moron, Dementia Joe Biden, who we all know is not really in control of things. Obama's behind him, pulling the strings. The 13 families of the Illuminati are behind this. I mean, who knows who's actually behind it? But the bottom line is Biden has done nothing to prevent people who want to destroy America from coming into our country whenever they please. Like I said, I am not condemning the good people that are coming through the border. However, when my grandfather came to America, he went through Ellis Island and did it legally. He got his citizenship legally. He did not do it illegally. And that's what's happening here. This is illegal. And they want to call them, immigrants, undocumented immigrants. They're not undocumented immigrants. They are illegal trespassers in our country. They are illegal aliens. And Joe Biden has done nothing to prevent it. Joe Biden should be impeached as a terrorist for being intent to destroy this country. Now, to take this a step further, if you've been watching the news the last couple of days, the FBI is warning of terror threats to the United States. They are now elevated. We have the situation in the Gaza Strip. Hamas has attacked Israel, and Israel is now attacking Hamas and the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Over the last few weeks, we have had 27 different attacks from terrorist groups against our United States troops who are defending us overseas. What did Biden do? He ordered 2 strikes about 2 weeks ago, and nothing has been done since then. Nothing. He is deploying more troops now to the Middle East. Why are we putting our troops in danger in the Middle East? If these terrorists are attacking our troops, that is attack on the United States of America. That is an attack on our freedom. It is an attack on our country. We need to respond with veracity, with ferocity. We need to go after them. And we can't sit back and just take constant punches to the face without responding. Joe Biden is failing on every account. We now, across this world, we are on the verge of World War III. This clown is a fragile, weak, demented fool who has no business being the president of the United States of America and the leader of the free world. This clown, in the span of 3 years, has done decades worth of destruction to our country. And I'm sorry, if there are any people out there that are still considering voting for this person, I don't care how much you hate Trump. I don't care how much you hate Republicans. I don't care how much you think you're on the right side of history. You are not on the right side of history. You are backing the destruction of the United States of America. If you want communism, go get it. But leave our damn country and go live someplace else where the government controls every aspect of your life. Excuse me. I saw a video clip this morning on YouTube. It was at UMass Boston. They had these young students who had a table at UMass Boston looking to get people to sign up for communism. And a person went up and asked these people questions. The young woman that was at the table was a young Asian woman. And she is originally from China. And the gentleman just asked her point blank, why do you live in America? And she said, well, China sucks. And he said, well, China is a communist country. And she said, no, it isn't. And he goes, yeah, China is a communist country. You're saying it sucks, but you're trying to go communism here in America. They literally took up the banner, folded the table, and walked off. This is what we're dealing with in this world right now. We're dealing with a younger population that has no clue as to what they're talking about when it comes to fascism, when it comes to communism, when it comes to these American students who are now protesting for Palestine and protesting for Hamas. Honestly, I looked at what DeSantis did down in Florida. Now, I don't love DeSantis. I feel like he screwed Trump over. I would have a lot more respect if he came out and dropped out of the race and put his support behind Trump. But they banned protests for Palestinians and for Hamas at colleges in Florida. And this is not taking away free rights, freedom of right or freedom to protest. I liken these protests of the Palestinians back to what happened in the summer of 2020 riots with George Floyd. George Floyd and the whole Black Lives Matter movement was hijacked by a bunch of extremists. Now, George Floyd being murdered, and I do think he was murdered. He may have not been a good guy, and maybe he died of the drugs he had in his system. But what happened that day should not have happened. Excuse me. And I understand why Black Americans were angry. I really do. But the riots that happened after the George Floyd situation were the worst insurrection that our country has ever seen. Worse than January 6th by a long shot. There were organizations that were sending pallets of bricks into cities. You had extremists who were posing as Black Lives Matter people and causing riots and destroying property. And you had basically terrorists were attacking our country from within. We are seeing that now again on college campuses, where these young students are most likely being hijacked by extremists, and they're protesting against Israel and they're protesting against Jewish people. Now, this has all happened under this fool that we have in office. Now, I titled this show, Let's Go Brandon, because I didn't want to put out there what we're all really thinking. But I'll say it here. Fuck Joe Biden. The guy is a clown. The guy is the worst thing that's ever happened to our country. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't think our overlords are going to try to cheat again, they will. No one stopped them the first time. They succeeded. Trump is the only person that's been standing up against it. They're all trying to pretend like this didn't happen. I am convinced that cheating happened. I am positive that Trump should have been the rightful president in 2020. Americans, you may not love him, but you need to unite behind Trump because Trump represents us versus them. You don't have to love him, but they're doing everything in his power to prevent him from running for president again. We need to have Donald Trump back in office to take on these overlords, to take on these people intent on taking away our freedom and tearing up the Constitution and throwing away everything that we have in this country. And if you don't think this is happening, you really need to open your eyes because it is happening, it can happen, and everything the United States of America has stood for over the last few hundred years could evaporate very quickly. So you all need to really think about what you want for the future of the United States of America because we're close to losing all of it. And dementia Joe Biden is the enemy. The people supporting him are the enemy. The squad are our enemy. Rashida Tlaib, AOC, all these other clowns that are pushing terrorism. The Rhino Republicans are our enemy. We need to wake up and decide that our country is worth fighting for, and we need to take this country back. Now, I don't want anyone to twist what I'm saying because you know the liberals are going to come out. I am not advocating for violence, but we need to organize. We need to show up at the polls. We need to demand transparency in the election, and we need to fight for what our founding fathers provided for us. We're not talking about an outdated piece of paper. The Constitution is not outdated. It was brilliantly written, and it had foresight to envision a scenario when we could be in jeopardy of losing our freedom again. Those men were not just Americans. They were Americans that just fought to liberate their country from an oppressor. And that's what we're facing right now. And do we have the men and the women in this country right now to stand up and be the patriots of the year 2023 and 2024? Because that's what we need. I'm calling all patriots. We need to wake up and we need to fight for the United States of America, or this country will not exist in the next 10 years. It will be gone. And once it's gone, forget about freedom because we are the last standing country that has any semblance of freedom. Once it's gone for good, and we ain't getting it back. So, ladies and gentlemen, wake up. Wake up, calling all patriots. We need to start fighting back, and we need to take our country back and demand change in Washington. We need term limits. We need people that care. We need to get these rhinos and these communist traitors out of office, and we need to take our country back. Let's go, Brandon. Fuck Joe Biden. It's all a message that we all need to pass. We need to stand up, and we need to fight for the United States of America. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for tuning into the John DeVito Show. We all need to wake up and move forward. I love all of you. Thank you for listening. Please share my show with a friend, and I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm praying for all of you, and I hope all of you pray for me because we all need prayers during these very difficult and dark times in our country. Have a great day, everybody. And again, thank you so much for tuning in.